It's May 8th, 2025. Mother's Day will be this Sunday. I think in addition to the card I'll be giving my mother, I think I'm gonna give her a I'm wanting to give her a potted plant of lilacs. I'm gonna buy 2 pots. One to give my mom next time I go hang out with her, and of course give her a card and all that stuff for Mother's Day. But I think I'm gonna get a second pot of lilacs, and I'm gonna take it out and put it next to my eldest sister's grave. It's been about 15-ish years since she died. She had a brain aneurysm. Then about 7 years after that, or like 8 years ago, my mom had 3 strokes and an aneurysm. Thankfully, she survived that and made a full recovery 4 months later. That being said, I myself, about a month after she had 3 strokes and her aneurysm, I had meningitis and encephalitis. It's swelling in the brain and spinal cord, so I spent 3 days in the hospital getting pumped full of a bunch of chemicals to prevent me from dying. Then again, about 6 years before that, about a year after my sister had died, I actually got in a car accident where I got hit by a truck going 75 miles an hour. Wound up getting a dozen plus staples left side of my skull from that. Couldn't move my left arm very well for a couple months. All my ribs were as bruised as possible without being broken. My legs from waist to my feet were covered in purple and black bruises that felt and looked like the texture of basketball. I've been in quite a few car accidents. When I was 12, I was in a car accident and my mom leaned over me. Fairly certain that saved my life, though it was a bit unnerving looking at my mom because she wound up getting a cut on her head herself back then. I could actually see her skull. So, I'm glad that wasn't much worse than what it was. Heck, a year and a half ago I had bladder surgery, and my mom spent 3 days and 3 nights over here. I appreciated that. I've always appreciated and been grateful for my mom. Granted, I don't look at her through rose-tinted glasses. I fully acknowledge she has her flaws and she has her issues. She's certainly has some issues. But even with that, I wouldn't trade her for any other mom in the whole world. I love her very much. If anything, I'd say I love and trust my mom more than any other human on the planet. Granted, me and her don't exactly see eye to eye on everything, and there are some things she has issues with, and there are some disagreements, and she has had problems in the past that I've had issues with as well. But like I said, even with all that, I love my mom very, very much. And when it's all said and done, While there were some issues, I feel she did a very good job being a parent and being a mother. And I appreciated her everything that she did for me, raising me. And she cooked a lot of food, homemade. She did a good job. I enjoyed the food, and I enjoyed sitting in the kitchen talking to her. And I have very fond memories of sitting and playing the NES, the original Nintendo, playing the original Mario and Mario 3 and the very original Spyro the Dragon with her. We weren't very good at it, but I enjoyed playing the games with her. And I would talk to her quite a bit sometimes. So, when it's all said and done, I appreciate my mother, and I love my mom very, very much. So, yeah. Hopefully she'll like everything, including the flowers, and I said I'll buy 2. That way I can bring that second pot of flowers out and put that on my sister's grave. But, yeah. Greetings, one and all, to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator actively alienating everyone, in both the analog and digital world. Welcome, good evening, wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8. Good work, everyone. I know it's hot, but please do your best. If you catch anybody illegally dumping, please contact someone immediately. We'll act quickly. Thank you for your cooperation, Oishi-san. Please. A gap wide enough for a single car was opened in the barricade. Oishi, showing his gratitude, or perhaps a threatening attitude, with a short beep on the horn, rolled the car forward through a checkpoint. This time, my appearance was the very embodiment of the word suspicious. A baseball cap, mask, and sunglasses. On top of that, even though it was sweltering, I was wearing a hoodie. Any respectable police officer would be loath to not stop me from questioning. I had meant to be overcautious, knowing full well that my face was known, but it might have already been too late for that to have any use. Using that as an excuse, I doffed the unbearably hot hoodie and windbreaker, ripped off the mask and hat and threw them in the seat behind me. Oh my, is that okay? With a cheap little disguise like this, they probably already figured it out anyways. That just might be the case. Oishi, probably thinking that my unexpected behavior was funny, continued to laugh. The beautiful and pristine scenery of Hinamizawa spread out before me. The village itself would have been quite beautiful if it weren't for the complicated circumstances surrounding it at the moment. I would absolutely love to take Yuki here for a drive one day. Come to think of it, I didn't get a chance to call her last night. I played around with the idea in my head, but in reality the village wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. I had heard everything at the prefectural headquarters. At the heart of this village, the intelligence network that the 3 families wielded was, due to blood ties and regional relationships, unbelievably well organized. Their net spread not just around Hinamizawa itself, but encapsulated the entirety of the city of Shishibone as well. When I first heard that, somewhere in the recesses of my mind, I didn't take it completely seriously. How could a local organization out in the boonies here have something so grandiose? I couldn't deny that somewhere in the back of my mind I had ridiculed the thought. But not only were they really threatening the minister, but they had demonstrated they had a complete grasp on our movements, which were supposed to be top secret. They were almost like the secret police that controlled a small Eastern European country, like in some spy novel. The villagers here wouldn't bat an eye at getting their hands dirty if it meant fighting the damn project. I also heard something like that at the prefectural headquarters. Now that you mention it, when I first arrived here, Oishi also said that this place was a war zone, didn't he? The residents of this village were at the same time the freedom fighters although by definition they were no different than guerrillas or a militia. They weren't protected by the Geneva Convention, but they also didn't have to adhere to those rules either. This place was more of a quagmire than any legitimate battlefield. A secret war was unfolding. I could drive along because Oishi was with me. But if I was to leave this car for even something as trivial as looking for a vending machine, there was a chance I wouldn't return. Even though a single shot hadn't been fired, this was a battlefield. No, the reason why bullets weren't flying was simply because it was hard for a civilian to obtain a gun in Japan. So they were probably just equipped with weapons other than guns that were easier to obtain. That was why Oishi was wearing the stab-proof vest, wasn't it? Akasaka-san, are you nervous? The fact that I was apprehensive was, of course, picked up on by Oishi. If he already figured it out, there was no point in trying to deny or hide it. Of course I am. We're headed into the heart of enemy territory alone, aren't we? I'm worried about if something unlikely happens with just the two of us. Something unlikely? It'll be alright. Isn't everybody in this village our enemy? If everybody gets their stories straight, they could murder someone in broad daylight, and there wouldn't be a shred of evidence. I'm asking about something like that. This was what that ironclad rule of not barging into Yakuza office alone was about. If there wasn't a neutral party involved, that area wasn't bound by the laws of common sense. If something happened, you wouldn't be able to prove it, and there wasn't anybody who would take your side. It was pretty much the definition of poking the bear. I've left word that we're headed towards the Himazawa area, and in the worst case scenario, we've also got a radio. I know you're scared, Akasaka-san, but it's not that easy to pull off the perfect crime. Well, of course, that doesn't mean we can let our guard down either. Akasaka-san, you're too worked up over this. You were more relaxed the last time we came up here together, weren't you? Laughing it off, Oishi thumped his chest and grinned as if to say I could depend on him. Well, if it gets really iffy, this comes with having the badge. Oishi made a motion by sticking out his index finger. It was undoubtedly the image of a gun. Will it be of any use? If you're not afraid of dealing with the aftermath after you shoot, it's actually very reassuring. An officer's gun was only for show. If you really wanted to fire it, there were quite a number of stipulations, and you had to be prepared for the long probationary period afterwards. That definitely wasn't worth it, so even if an officer did unholster his gun, there wasn't one who actually wanted to pull the trigger. Akasaka-san, are you carrying one? A piece. Well, yeah. You ever fired it? I have. For training, though. Well, I guess that'd be true. Well, then, have you, Oishi-san? Me. Nah, there's no way. What was this? I thought he was laughing at me because he had experience. The two of us laughed together. I've also never pointed the barrel at anybody. I've looked down the barrel of a gun a few times, though. Just being made to look down the barrel like that is enough to shorten your lifespan by about 3 years. Even if you had never fired a gun before, you couldn't even begin to compare the amount of experience Oishi had over me. At a time like this, I could only marvel again at how reliable Oishi seemed. Come to think of it, I didn't want to come this way in the middle of the day. But there's no way for a car to get through other than here. Akasaka-san, just in case, put on the mask again to hide your face, please. What's the matter? Can you not hear it because the air conditioning is too loud? I'll turn it off. Try opening the window. When I opened the window, a blast of hot air blew inside, and then I could hear angry yelling coming from far away. At that moment, the forest gave way on either side of us, and our view expanded. Suddenly, and there could be seen Himazawa Dam construction grounds, the very front line for the Himazawa village. We're absolutely opposed to the construction of the Himazawa Dam. The crackling blare of someone's voice sounded over an enormous loudspeaker. The roar of angry voices continued to rumble. The incredible volume had become a veritable sound cannon, spewing out its ammunition. The prefabricated site office was surrounded by 2 sets of high fences laced with barbed wire. barbed wire. Lined up in front of those fences were riot police and their vehicles, and surrounding it all were the villagers. They howled out their protests against the dam as a single entity. Oh, there's not too many of them today. We're in luck. That's not too many? Yeah, when there's a whole lot of them, the crowd reaches as far as the road. You wouldn't even be able to inch forward in a car. At first, due to their overwhelming intensity, it looked to me like there was more people than there actually was, but upon a closer inspection, there was at most 50 to 70 of them. That's still a lot, but the 6 or 7 propaganda trucks lined up that looked like they belonged to a band of thugs were a strange enough sight. The villagers were also wearing helmets and bandanas, as well as covering their faces with masks, adding to the oddity of it all. The propaganda trucks, after braying their chorus, had their volume turned up even higher and began to flood the area with sutras. To say that the noise was downright violent wouldn't be an understatement. From this distance, it was still this loud. The glass in the office was probably rattling from the noise. They can't do anything there but take it. Those riot squad guys, every one of them is wearing earplugs, but they're still having their hearing damaged. Poor sobs. Can't you do something about it with the noise ordinance laws? Our prefecture doesn't have any laws regarding noise ordinance. Also, those are sutras, right? We can't regulate religious activities. Those guys are pretty smart, is what I think Oishi said. Actually, no matter how tightly the window was shut, the booming sound of the sutras still filled the car. I couldn't even hear what Oishi was sitting right next to me was saying. As the car approached the line of propaganda trucks, the blare became difficult to bear. It wasn't enough just to plug my ears with my fingers. I had to hold my head to keep my skull from splitting apart. If I had seen this terrifying energy sooner, I would have probably understood that Himasawa village was much quicker. Now I knew. They wouldn't blink an eye at sacrificing themselves in order to protect their hometown. So the goddamn noisy. Shut up, shut up, shut up. My head throbbed and felt like it was going to split apart. My eardrums crackled, and on top of it all, I felt like I was going to throw up. With the road crowded with a throng of squatters, the propaganda trucks, and the riot police's vehicles, it was in no way easy to get by. Even if you tried to shoot the squatters with a car horn, they were also wearing earplugs, oblivious to the noises from the outside world, and wouldn't easily move. The car could only inch forward at a snail's pace. Even then, the car eventually got through, starting to leave the tumultuous noise behind. Hey, the bald guy that was playing mahjong with us last night, remember him? I remember that there was an older person who didn't exactly mince words, the guy that Oishi called Old Man. There was someone like that. You see, he's the foreman of the main construction site. He's probably holed up in that prefab building trying to work while irritated out of his mind. Poor fella. You wouldn't be able to stand it if it's like that every day. Yeah, there's no way to end the number of people who can't handle it and quit. But every time that happens, their wages go up, so I won't say it's in vain. Even having to deal with all the noise and hostility, they still made a wage that Oishi found enviable. Damn it, these guys. Can they hear? Or can't they? A group of squatters were in the way of the car. Oishi, sufficiently annoyed, laid into the horn, but there was no indication that they were moving anytime soon. In this din, could they not even hear a car horn? Or did they hear it and were being malicious? If there were any riot police nearby, they would have made people move. But it just so happened. There weren't any around here. Geez, wait just a minute. Oishi opened up the door. The hot air and even more heated roar of the crowd spilled into the car. Oishi said something as he grinned widely, but I couldn't hear what it was. He was getting them to move. Something like that? Oishi stepped out of the car and closed the door. The din faded slightly. I stared blankly as Oishi headed towards the group and started some sort of conversation. Maybe we'd find the minister's grandson at Tokatsudo. At the very least, I wanted to find him there. Find him and slip the cursed bonds of this incomprehensible village. I could only pray. At that very moment, a shadow was suddenly cast over me. Somebody was standing right outside the passenger side window, blocking the sunlight. I spun around, looked up, and realized who the black backlit figure was. Huh? It was a girl. It was Rika Furude. The girl stared down at me with a bored look in her eyes. I didn't have any justification for it, but I felt like I had been found by somebody I shouldn't be found by. To fill the silence, I raised my hand as I mouthed a meek greeting. Of course, there was no way she heard my small voice in this clamor, but even then she should have seen me wave my hand in greeting. In spite of that, she simply stared down at me with a cold look on her face. At that moment, the noise and heat spread throughout the car. Once again, Oishi had returned to the driver's seat. Taking a look at the group that were blocking the road, had started to move aside while glaring our way. Sorry to keep you waiting. Shall we go? Oishi registered the figure of the girl behind me. One of the villagers came over and picked her up. In a manner of "It's dangerous, so get away." It was then that she whispered one or two words, however I couldn't hear any of it. Well then, let's go. I'm going to gun it, okay? But of course, still within the speed limit. As if to shake off the still audible angry voices, Oishi floored the gas. Along with the roar and the din and the shouting, the villagers and the girl quickly disappeared behind us. As soon as we're through here, we're in tokatsudo. Are you okay if we end up getting into a firefight? Don't be fumbling with the safety at the last moment, you hear? Oishi laughed mockingly again. I was more concerned with what the girl had said, however, as I was vaguely bothered by it. What was she trying to say with that apathetic and candid expression? Suppose it's normal if you're nervous from here on out, but if you don't deal with it, there's a chance you might do something rash. But there's no longer a way to confirm what the girl had tried to tell me. It might have been the girl who warned me to go back to Tokyo again, or else was saying to me who was here now, ignoring that warning. Even though I warned you. What a fool. I had a feeling she said something like that. If you were to call Hinamizawa a rather lonely village, then tokatsudo was outright desolate. For your everyday city boy like me, I just couldn't understand why anybody would force themselves to live here. There were signs that people had, but they were all covered in dust or enveloped in ivy, indicating that it was all abandoned. People really lived in a place like this, didn't they? Well, it was a long time ago. A remote place like this is pretty rough for old folk to live. And the younger people probably wanted to try living in a more suitable place. If there's nobody left to take the reins, all that gets left is this. Even if I had no personal attachment to the village, seeing the disused buildings made me feel a little sentimental. It seemed that Oishi also felt the same way. Was the wallet found over here? The person who found it must have a good reason to come out to this desolate place. Yeah, there's some villagers who have a field out in the mountains here. They pass by here in the mornings and evenings. The villagers who work in the fields walk by here every day. No way. They probably go as far as they can by car. So in the early mornings and evenings they pass by here and just happen to find a single wallet. They probably did. Where exactly did they say they found it? In a thicket, just a bit further ahead. The person who found the wallet just happened to have some stomach cramps and was planning to use the thicket to do his business, it seems. It was there he happened to find it, probably hoping there was some toilet paper in there. Everything about this story just seems a little too convenient. Right from the discovery of the wallet, I just can't shake the feeling that something's off. I expressed the feeling that I had from the start of the day, quite frankly. It seemed too good to be true, but it was unwavering proof. But it was too perfect, sickeningly so. That was my feeling. You might actually be onto something by saying it's all a little too perfect. Meaning? The truth is, I heard a little something from a friend of mine in the 4th Division, where Oryu Sonozaki referenced the kidnapping of the minister's grandson. She referenced it. Yeah, it's been several days since the minister's grandson has been kidnapped, poor boy. It'd be nice if they let him go soon. It seems old Oryu muttered something like that while on her veranda, and that, while musing, was conveyed to the various people working deep behind the scenes in the Sonozaki family. Right, I had heard something earlier from Sato-san, the informant, that when the leader Oryu had a concern, somebody in the family would be considerate. So, in essence, she gave the order to release the hostage. I see it that way. The wallet being conveniently discovered was just a ploy to hand the boy over to the police. Why would they release the hostage? Well, there's only one reason why somebody would release the hostage, isn't there? What is it? They reached a deal. That would mean that the minister promised to halt the Himatsubushi dam project. The dam project will definitely go away. At that moment, those words that girl had said resurfaced in the back of my mind. In the end, it was turning out exactly as she had proclaimed. The young girl knew the circumstances. She knew everything about this kidnapping incident, from the beginning to the end. Akasaka? The girl unexpectedly called my name. What is it? Go back to Tokyo, huh? Before long you will woefully regret coming to this village. That would be an incredibly pathetic thing to see. So I thought I'd warn you right now. Why would I come to regret it? Stop whining. When you tried crossing the road, when the don't walk sign was up, did your parents finish explaining why it was dangerous before pulling you back to the sidewalk? They'd pull you back right away, wouldn't they? They'd pull you back before explaining why it was dangerous, wouldn't they? In other words, it's something like that. The girl who knew everything from start to finish had warned me in the beginning. Go back to Tokyo. Akasaka is such a coward. Tee-hee-hee-hee. We'll probably find the boy. But what happens afterward will probably be a bit of a problem. How it'll be a problem, though, is something a single officer like me can't figure out. Do you know a girl named Rika Furude? What I had said was such a non sequitur that Oishi sat in stunned silence for a while. Of course I know her. She's the only daughter of the Furude family, one of the 3 families. What kind of girl is she? Well, well, this was an unexpected name to hear. I'm a bit surprised. Does public safety think that the Furude family smells fishy and wants to keep an eye on them? Share some of that information with me, please. No, it's not like that. It's just something that caught my attention. Well, whatever. It wouldn't do to not answer a question from a friend I've sat at the same table with. I'm honored you'd call me a friend. So, that little lady is, well, somewhat of a village mascot. She's beloved by everybody in the village. Some of the older folk worship her especially. Worship? I don't know much about it, you see. Girls born in the Furude family have somewhat of a sacred implication, it seems. It's one of the local beliefs in Hinamizawa, the living incarnation of Oyashiro-sama or something like that. Or so the story goes, apparently. Oyashiro-sama? Now that you mention it, I think I saw Oyashiro-sama written on some of the Alliance banners. What is Oyashiro-sama exactly? It's the name of the guardian deity of Hinamizawa. They believe it'll exact punishment on those who would do ill towards the village. Well, if there was such a convenient god around, the guys of the dam would have long since been done in by divine justice. Luckily, nothing like that has happened to anybody just yet. The grandson of the minister who trifled with the village as a result of Oyashiro-sama's anger was, what did they call it again? Oh right, Onakakushi. The minister's grandson was demoned away. That would probably be how the script is being written. Aha, I see. It probably would turn into something like that. Divine punishment wrought by Oyashiro-sama. Then the culprit is the living incarnation of Oyashiro-sama. That girl? Even I didn't know exactly what I was saying. The fact that Oishi laughed it off was a bit of a relief. Oishi's joyous laughter was so infectious that I began to laugh like an idiot as well. Oh, this is unusual. Oishi, after laying into the horn several times, rolled the window down and leaned out, waving his arm in an exaggerated manner. It was a car headed the opposite way. Until now, we hadn't run into any other cars except our own, and of all places, it was at this desolate location. It seemed that Oishi knew the owner of the car. The other car also chirped its horn and came to a stop. Dr. Irie! Good afternoon. The other car's window rolled down slowly, revealing a young man in a white overcoat. He was about my age, or perhaps a bit older. But you really can't judge somebody by their appearance. Why, if it isn't Oishi-san. I think we'll call it there. I did say I want to try to make shorter videos. So, I'll see you guys again in the next video. Hope everyone has all the all the hugs and head pats you can ever need or want. Until the next video, bye. And now the awkward silence.